Thank you for joining Cancer Support Community Atlanta for this program. Please visit our website, cscatlanta.org, for a complete list of live and recorded events. We invite you to sign up for our newsletter to stay connected to all future programs.
Thank you, Lauren, and thanks everybody for being here. So like Lauren said, I'm one of the dietitians at Northside Hospital, and we have about 18 of us that help to service the Cancer Institute through Northside. So I like to give a general disclaimer at the beginning of some of these presentations that some of the content that is presented may not necessarily work for you if you're actively going through treatment and you're having to manage some side effects. So if you are experiencing side effects and you want more specific one-on-one nutrition interventions or counseling, somebody who can really dig into like your medical records and the medications that you're on, to please get with us so we can help get you connected to the right dietitian that works in your doctor's office. And then if you're not being treated through Northside, but somewhere around Atlanta, I also have the contacts for most of the other programs like Emory and Wellstar and Piedmont. So if you need help getting connected to a dietitian at one of those facilities, always reach out to the cancer support community and we will try to get you pointed in the right direction. But today's topic is Eat the Rainbow with fruit and veggies. I often get asked a lot of questions about like, what's the number one fruit or the number one vegetable that I need to eat or the number one food? And I just wanted to go over why all of our foods are important and there's not necessarily a ranking system, or we don't have to say one's number one and one's number two. It's more about the variety and making sure that we are getting more variety, colors, textures, flavors going on in our diets the best that we can, and while honoring your own traditions and your cultures and also your taste buds, because we can't like everything, can we? So our objectives for today, we're just going to review quickly the recommendations for reducing cancer risk. And if you've already had cancer, this is also applicable to reducing your risk of recurrence of cancer. And then discussing the benefits of eating more color and why we really say eating the rainbow. And we'll go over our phytonutrients and antioxidants. And then we'll quickly review the new American plate, which is something that the American Institute for Cancer Research has issued, but it's a way to help with meal planning and making sure that you are having a variety of different colors and different food types in your diet, so you're getting those good nutrients from all those things. So these are the top 10 recommendations that are more geared towards nutrition, physical activity, and lifestyle. And these come from the American Institute for Cancer Research. And we do have this, these 10 recommendations as an entire 1-hour presentation that's saved on the CSC Atlanta website. So if you want to dive a little deeper into these things, then that presentation is recorded and up for you. But their number one recommendation is to be a healthy weight. And I always like to tell people that doesn't mean necessarily always have to be a specific number on the scale. Everybody's body is different. It's more that we want to focus on making sure that you have good muscle mass, that you're strong, and that we're reducing our fat mass the best that we can, because extra fat tissue can alter our hormones and just change processes in our body and affect our metabolism. So it's more about focusing on building muscle and keeping that muscle as we get older, because as we do age, that just decreases over time. And then if you've been through treatment or you're going through treatment, you might start to notice that you're feeling more weak and fatigued and tired. And sometimes that has to do with our body composition and how much muscle we have. So we just want to protect that the best that we can through our whole lifespan and really focus there. And then number 2 is being physically active. So that doesn't really have a whole lot to do with what we're going to be talking about today, but it's always good to be moving and shaking, especially with this nice weather that we're having right now for the spring. Eating a diet that's rich in whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and legumes is their third recommendation. I tried to highlight or bold the ones that we'll be focusing more on today and how it ties into cancer. So we'll talk a lot about all these different colors and why we want to focus on more plant foods as we go through. Limiting consumption of fast foods or other high fat, high starch, or high sugar foods in our diets the best that we can. We want to make sure we're making room to have more plants, of course. Limiting the consumption of red and processed meats. These can increase our risk for certain types of cancer, so we want to try to limit those as much as we can. Number 6 is limiting the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages. So this is stuff like regular sodas, milkshakes, Cokes, juices, those kind of things. They just add a lot of extra calories with not a lot of extra nutrients. Limiting alcohol consumption. Not using supplements for cancer prevention. So once somebody's diagnosed with cancer, I know from personal experience, but also hearing from a lot of other patients of mine, the number of people who come out telling them that they need to take this supplement or they need to do this or they need to buy this from their neighbor, those kind of things. So we'll dive a little bit into that later. And then for mothers, breastfeeding your baby if you can. That's good for both the baby and for the mother. And then after you've been diagnosed with cancer, trying to follow as many of these recommendations as you can, if they're fitting in with 1, your lifestyle, but 2, your medical conditions that you have going on. And Lauren always brings up great points. Some of these things certain patients don't tolerate. So there are people who have ostomy bags who don't have a good GI function. And so adding all this fiber into their diet isn't something that's helpful for them. It causes more distress than it does benefit. So learning to navigate that kind of thing. So again, if some of these recommendations, you're like, oh, I don't think I can do that, or I don't think I can tolerate that, that's perfectly fine. That's why we have dietitians. We can find workarounds and little loopholes to try to get those nutrients in where we can. So current recommendations, the American Institute for Cancer Research, we're going to call it AICR from here on, advises that we get at least 30 grams of fiber from food sources per day. So I don't know the last time you tracked how much fiber you were getting in your diet, but the average American gets somewhere between 10 and 15 grams of fiber. And about 2 summers ago, I started tracking my food for about a week, and I was only hitting about 15 grams of fiber. And I was like, whoa, I'm a dietitian. I should be like hitting the mark up here. So it really took some reorganizing of my diet and adding in some more fibrous foods to help me get up to this 25 to 38 grams of fiber. So 25 is usually for women and up to 38 for men, but this is just an average of around 30. From the AICR. So trying to eat a minimum of 3.5 to 5 cups of vegetables and fruit each day. So that's like actually measuring those things out, but trying to get at least 3.5 to 5 different types of vegetables or fruits is really what we're aiming for. And these could be fresh, frozen, or canned. If you're doing canned, trying to get it without salt, fat, and added sugars, just to kind of lay off some of those extra calories that we don't need, but with the salt, making sure that our blood pressure is doing okay. But I do get a lot of questions about, do I only need to be eating fresh fruits and vegetables? Can I do frozen? Can I have canned or even dried fruits? And they're trying some vegetables. I've seen mushrooms and stuff out there for snack things. And all of those are going to count towards this goal of the 3.5 to 5 cups per day. It kind of just depends on what you're doing. If you're single and you live alone, fresh produce might not always be feasible because you have a lot of food waste. So having more frozen options in your freezer might help you reach this goal better than having fresh stuff. So everybody's a little bit different. You do whatever feels good to you and whatever you like to eat. I'm good with that. And then focus on incorporating a variety of whole grains and also beans and legumes. So our whole grains, I always hear people say, I'm not eating carbs anymore. And so they're cutting out these whole grain foods that actually provide a lot of fiber for us. And they provide a lot of B vitamins and good nutrients that help to support our metabolism. So we don't want to completely eliminate them. We want to make sure that our portion sizes are around a 1/2 cup to 3/4 of a cup, and that we are choosing those more fibrous grains when we can to get those good nutrients in. And then our beans and our legumes, those are also going to be a protein source. and they're a fiber source for us. So you're getting a plant-based protein and you're getting some good healthy fiber for your GI tract. So those are a very nice way to add in some more fiber on a daily basis if you like beans and legumes. So our benefits of eating more color, the reason why we like to say this is because they help to provide a lot of different variety of vitamins, minerals, fiber, and our phytochemicals, or you might see the word phytonutrients. Sometimes if you're reading online, they use those words interchangeably. And every different color, every different smell, every different texture of these fruits and vegetables, that just shows that it's got different phytochemicals or phytonutrients in there that help make up that composition. And those are all going to be our little cancer fighting nutrients that we want to make sure that we're incorporating in our diet when we can. So these foods also tend to be lower in calories when you think about your fruits and your vegetables. And so this can help with that weight management. It can help with weight loss. It can help you maintain your weight. It's known, over the years as we get older, we tend to gain a pound or two each year that we don't typically lose. And so it just keeps trending upward. So this can help prevent that from happening as well. So again, that's the number one recommendation from the AICR. So an extra bonus for having those foods in here. And then they also help to protect against several chronic diseases. So it's not just cancer, but also heart disease, diabetes, and other diseases that we just don't necessarily want to develop throughout our lifetime. But if we already have them, we also want to make sure we are maintaining them or managing them well. And fruits and vegetables typically are a good way to do that. And then there have been some cancers that have actually been associated with a low intake of plant foods. So some lung cancer, oral cancers, esophageal, stomach, and colon. If you're not getting enough plant foods or getting enough fiber into your diet, those people have been shown to have higher risks of developing these cancers. So we want to protect ourselves that way as well. So what's the difference between an antioxidant and a phytonutrient? They're kind of one and the same, but an antioxidant is a substance that prevent damage to cells from free radicals. And our free radicals, those are highly reactive and unstable molecules that float around our bodies. And so those free radicals can damage some of our cells, and that damage or those damaged cells have been linked to a variety of different diseases. So if our body's not able to get rid of that damaged cell and it keeps multiplying or causing more damage, then that's where some of these diseases come from, or even some of that inflammation, like that's a big buzzword right now, anti-inflammatory, trying to get things to have less inflammation. So that has to do with some of the cell damage that can occur. So our bodies need to have a balance between our antioxidants and our free radicals. So the antioxidants help to stabilize those free radicals so they're not causing that cell damage. So again, antioxidant, that's a big word everybody always brings up when they think about your immune health or just fighting different diseases that you want antioxidants. So a phytonutrient, many of them actually act as antioxidants. So it helps to neutralize those free radicals so they can't keep causing that damage. And then they also do other things too. So some of them can increase a cancer cell's ability to self-destruct. So that's one of the things, like cancer cells don't typically kill themselves. They just keep growing, where our healthy cells, they know when it's time to die and for a new cell to be born. So some of these phytonutrients can actually cause these cancer cells to self-destruct so they don't continue growing. And then others may stop carcinogens before they have a chance to begin the process of cancer development. So maybe you are eating something that's a known carcinogen, or still smoking that's a known carcinogen, or you drink alcohol, which is also a known carcinogen. So including some of these phytonutrients and antioxidants in our diet may help to prevent those damaged cells from being able to multiply and keep going on. And then there are some that can also help to block the development of the new blood vessels that tumors need. So when tumors start to develop, they need a blood supply that helps them to get the nutrients and stuff that they need. And so certain phytonutrients have been known to kind of stop that blood supply from getting to the tumor. And then some phytonutrients also help to fight inflammation. So you can see they do a lot of different things in a lot of different capacities. And it's like a multi-pronged approach to trying to help support our immune system and keep our body strong and healthy. So phytonutrients or phytochemicals, remember those two words are interchangeable. It's really typically the main word is phytochemical, but the word chemical sometimes scares people. So it's phytonutrient to make it sound more nutritious. But it's a broad term for a wide variety of the compounds that are produced by plants. So you see at the bottom, there are around 4,000 phytonutrients that we kind of know of, but only a very small fraction of them have actually been studied. So we still have a long way to go in determining all of the benefits, how they interact, how our bodies use these things when we're eating these foods. We're really just scratching the surface. But these phytonutrients, again, are found in our fruits, vegetables, beans, grains, and other plant foods. So if you remember from our first slide with the AICR recommendations, their third bullet point was to make sure we're incorporating those kinds of food into our diet to help protect our cells and our bodies from those free radicals. And so these are the things that help to provide plants with the different colors and odors and flavors that set those different foods apart from one another. And then, like I said, there are about 4,000 phytonutrients out there, and we're really just scratching the surface with what we know and how these things are really benefiting us. So these are some common names that you'll see. And I told Lauren that I can't pronounce all of these words, and we'll struggle through this together. But just don't judge my poor ability to say some of the words, and sometimes I'll just tell you to read it because I'm not even going to try. But you can see antioxidants, flavonoids are on here. Soy is a great source of flavonoids, so sometimes soy is misunderstood in our cancer population, but soy is actually known to be protective against cancers, and a lot of it has to do with the amount of flavonoids that are in soy. Phytochemicals are another term that we've already talked about, flavonones, isoflavonones. We're just going to stop there. We're going to go through some of these though. But these are some common names if you see these. Carotenoids are very popular. You'll hear those, and we'll go through some of those too. But let's go through our rainbow here. So red is very much associated with lycopene, and lycopene is a type of carotenoid that's going to help protect our body. And its main functions that we know of right now are cell communication, so how our cells talk to one another and communicate and know kind of what to do and where to go and do the right things. And then it's also known to be a very strong antioxidant as well. So some sources are our tomatoes and tomato-based products, watermelon. I always forget watermelon because it's nice and red and juicy inside. Pink grapefruit, guava, and apricots. So these are all going to be those great sources of lycopene. And I know we've got some prostate cancer patients on here. Lycopene has been associated with helping fight prostate cancer and prevent prostate cancer. And it's specifically cooked tomato products that can be helpful. They tend to be a little bit more potent in the lycopene area. So these are things that are great to incorporate in your diet if you're able to tolerate those. You don't have to overdo it. It's just making sure you're getting, a serving or two here or there, and just focusing on some of those foods. Red and purple, I can't actually see the top of my screen. Anthocyanins are the flavonoid or the phytonutrients that are found in our red and purple fruits and vegetables and plant foods. These act as an antioxidant, so they're helping to control some of those free radicals and prevent that cell damage. And then they also help to fight inflammation. So I always hear, what can I eat to be less inflamed? And so these are some great options to start including into your diet if you can. So any of your berries are going to be a great option if you can tolerate those, but blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, cranberries are going to be very good options. They sell a lot of these as frozen items, so they're easy to add into smoothies or into like overnight oats where they could thaw throughout the night and you could have those the next day. So those are a little bit easier to just kind of shove in your diet that you already have. Grapes are another great source. Cherries, eggplant. This is where the red wine gets its positive reviews. Red cabbage, and then also black rice is a good source of anthocyanins. Our orange, so thinking about our alpha and beta carotene. So beta carotene is a little bit more mainstream when we think about the carotenoids, but these are definitely an antioxidant, and they help to create vitamin A for our body to use. And vitamin A is essential for growth. It's essential for our immune system and its response, and then also our eyesight. So definitely as we're, again, getting older and sometimes our eyesight gets a little bit weaker, making sure that we're eating some of these foods to help support our vision, and then also our immune system will be very important. But just a couple sources. Your carrots are a great source, mangoes, pumpkins, sweet potatoes, red bell peppers, all nice options to include to get these types of things in your diet. And then our orange and yellow, this is one of those words I'm not going to pretend that I can say, but these foods have anti-inflammatory and then also antihistamine properties. So cantaloupe, peaches, tangerines, papaya, persimmons, and oranges. So including those, anti-inflammatory, antihistamines. You can see how just having a wide variety of different things is really going to be, one, easier if you're not just focusing on only one food or one dark green leafy vegetable, but trying to add in all these things. It gives you a lot of options. If you don't like peaches, but you love papaya, you're still getting the benefits from those different foods and the different colors. Green. I wish I could get this banner off the top of my screen. I don't know why it's there. I can't even, there's a bar that's going across my banner, I'm sorry. But our greener foods tend to reduce cancer risk by protecting against the oxidative damage. So again, this is another antioxidant that we have going on here. But they also believe it helps to activate an enzyme that is involved in removing carcinogens from our bodies. So even if we ingest some of these carcinogens, our bodies usually have its own little detox system built in to help clear things out and get things flushed out of our system, which is why our body is amazing. But some of the different sources would be your cruciferous vegetables like your broccoli and cauliflower, Brussels sprouts and cabbage, and then also turnips, bok choy, kale. Really any of your dark green leafy vegetables are going to fall under this category as well. So again, making sure we're including these things on a regular basis will help to clear us out and keep us detoxed like we want to be. Our yellow and green foods have a lot of lutein and another word that is covered by the banner that I can't see. But these are also members of the carotenoid family. So similar to our beta carotene and our alpha carotene areas, this is going to help to decrease the risk for diseases of the eye that tend to come with aging. So things like our spinach, avocado, watercress, green beans, green bell peppers, broccoli, peas, those are going to help to support our eyes. A lot of people only think about like carrots and some of the deeper oranges, but a lot of your green foods also have those great benefits as well. And then our white foods, so thinking about our garlic, our onions, our leeks, these all provide allesyl sulfides and flavonoids. This can help for a number of different things, but it may help prevent bone loss in women with osteoporosis, which is great news, especially because a lot of chemotherapies and then a lot of maintenance drugs can lead to an increased risk of osteopenia and osteoporosis. So we want to protect our bones the best that we can. Studies have shown that these foods have a powerful antibacterial effect. So that can be very helpful if we have different things floating around in our blood to help neutralize those. And then may stop cell mutation. It might help to prevent DNA damage, and then also help stop cell growth of tumors. So these are excellent things that we can add in, especially for flavor. If you have some taste changes or things aren't tasting maybe as strong or as flavorful as they used to, these are great things to add into different recipes to try to get some of that flavor while also getting the benefit of the antibacterial and the antioxidants out of these products as well. So steps that you can take now, I know, again, we just kind of scratched the surface here of what all of our plant foods do for us, but focusing heavily on that variety of different things in your diet. So I know some people are cooking for a family of 4 and some people are only cooking for themselves. And so sometimes you do have to get creative, which is why the cooking demos that they do at the cancer support community are very helpful in teaching you different ways of using some of these foods and reusing them. So I think the one on this coming Thursday is focusing on strawberries, and he has 3 or 4 different recipes that are going to include strawberries, so you can see the different ways to use those. And then I know in May, our other chef is going to do a program called Nextovers and take a whole chicken, roast it, and then teach you different ways on how to use that chicken throughout the week. So you're not just eating the same, piece of chicken over and over, but what can you do to jazz it up a bit and make changes and make your own bone broth and that kind of thing from just that one piece of chicken. So very helpful if you need ideas or you want to strengthen your skills in cooking. I learned how to actually buy garlic, peel garlic, squish garlic, all the things. So it was very helpful with my mediocre skills in the spice department. So I encourage you guys to go if you can, and you get to try the food so you can see if you like it before you go and buy all the ingredients. But when you are at the store and you are picking out your fruits and your vegetables, if you're doing more fresh things, you want to try to pick the brightly colored ones or the strongly flavored vegetables and fruits that you can find. So the brighter the color, it tends to be more in its peak ripeness. So I always use my tomato example, and sometimes I find this in bell peppers too. When you cut into a tomato in the summer, like when tomatoes are in season, they tend to be very red and very juicy. But if you get a tomato in the winter time, sometimes they're more pale, like pinkish inside. And so they might not have as many nutrients going on in there. It's not to say that they're not healthy, like they're still a great option. It's just to give you a visual of the brightness of some of these foods when you're at the grocery store trying to select different things. And sometimes you can't tell from the outside. I mean, sometimes I get home and I think I have a very luscious red bell pepper and I cut inside and it's like white on the inside. And I'm like, okay. So the flavor doesn't taste the same as when it does when it's at the peak of its ripeness, but I bought it and I don't want it to go bad. So I'm still going to eat it. And then sticking to our food sources. So sometimes people will go out and buy beta carotene supplements, and we don't really want to do that because our body needs all of the other nutrients that are found in these foods for it to synergistically work within our bodies. So I know it always sounds tempting to go out and buy just vitamin C, but if you're focusing on having a lot of citrus fruits, and then, tomatoes are also a great source of vitamin C, and having that antioxidant, your body's using those foods a lot better than it would if it was just coming from a supplement. So we want to make sure it's using all the things that it needs to metabolize it. It's kind of like building a car with just a hammer. If you only have one tool in your toolbox, you're not going to get as far. But if you had the whole plant in there, you have a lot more resources and a lot more tools. So your body's able to use those nutrients together when you're eating actual food versus just taking like a single supplement. So if you've been to my presentations before, I'm sure you've seen the slide because I think I figure out a way to add it into literally every presentation I give. But this is a plate method. And I just really enjoy this visual because it just is a very simple tool to help make our meal planning easier. So sometimes the number one question dietitians get is, can I just have a meal plan? And meal plans never work if we just give you a meal plan. You have to learn to build your own meals because you like things that I don't like, and I like things that you don't like. And so it takes a lot of time and effort to initially sit down and make your meal plan or think about meals that you already like to eat and maybe tweak them a little bit to add in some more plant foods. But it's definitely worth it in the end if you can come up with like a 2-week menu cycle that you like, so you can plug in those meals during different times. If you get bored with something, you can retire it for a few months, or if you only like certain things in the summer, but in the winter you do more soups, like you're able to tweak it and how to meal plan yourself. So you're going to be more successful than me just giving you a 2-week meal plan and expecting you to follow it for the rest of your life. That doesn't work for anybody. So using this as a guide is very helpful. It helps to balance out those nutrients, make sure we are getting those different colors, and it's very simple to use. So this, you can see on the screen, you've got half of your plate is non-starchy vegetables. And I'm pretty sure I have a list of non-starchy vegetables here in a bit, but making sure that about half of our plate is non-starchy vegetables. And then only a fourth of your plate should be a protein food of some kind. So it could be an animal protein, like this piece of chicken on this plate, or it could be your beans or tofu or some other vegetarian plant-based protein is a great option. This could be your fish. It could be a pork chop. It could be a little piece of steak in here. It could be some shrimp. So you've got some options for your protein portion. And then your grains or your starchy vegetables will make up the other fourth of your plate. So in this picture, it's got some rice on here, but maybe you want to have a sweet potato. That's going to be more of a starchy vegetable. So you would put that into this fourth of your plate. And then you've got your other fourth being that protein. And then you're filling up that whole other half with some non-starchy vegetables. And then, of course, you can do a little fruit on the side. I don't like my foods to touch, so I like things to be separated. But also, a lot of your dishes may not always fit this mold perfectly, which is fine. There's like stir fries and different things that you can do. This is just to kind of get us visually stimulated to see how we want to build our plate. So non-starchy versus starchy vegetables. This list of non-starchy vegetables is not every vegetable that's on the planet. It's just some very common ones that we see here in the South. So if there are other ones that you like, by all means, please add those in. But you can see there's a wide variety of colors and different kinds, from asparagus to beets to carrots, cucumbers. You've got your turnips, tomatoes, onions. So you've got all of your greens and oranges and reds mixed in here. But you've also got your starchy vegetables too, and those are going to be their own kinds of colors. But we just want to make sure we're using those more in that starchy grain section of our plate, but definitely including those because they provide great nutrients. I always feel bad when people tell me they don't eat white potatoes anymore, and it's not that the white potato did anything bad. It's just we ate way too many of them, and we eat them fried typically. So we want to find other ways to eat those because they have good nutrients in them as well. We just don't need to have them as often. But plantains, pumpkin, when the fall comes, adding some pumpkin in for different things. Our different squashes are going to be more starchy, but again, they have good color. Green peas and corn also provide great fiber and great colors that can add to our plate as well. And then this is the new American plate that's actually put out from the American Institute for Cancer Research. So it's very similar to the other plate. I just like the other plate because it actually has like real food on it. But here they're recommending that 2/3 of our plate should come from plants. So that could be vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, and then 1/3 of our plate, I like to say 1/4 or less, is coming from our animal protein or even a plant-based protein here. So the benefits of using something like this, again, you're focusing on those foods that are rich in fiber and vitamins and phytonutrients to help protect us against cancer and other chronic diseases. It gives you a small portion of protein, but that's actually the amount of protein that your body utilizes in a sitting. So sticking to 3 to 4 ounces, or about the size of a deck of cards, is what we're looking for. And that gives your body what it needs for that specific meal and allows your body to absorb that protein and use it the best that it can. And then it's also promoting a variety of foods. So again, we're not just sitting down and having a piece of chicken and some broccoli, like we're adding other things in here to get different nutrients. And then if you can, having at least 2 different kinds of vegetables on your plate, again, will be helpful, because you see you got a green and an orange here. And we know that both of those are providing different nutrients and different vitamins and minerals for us. And they're adding new flavors so we don't get bored too with our meal. And then, of course, having that healthy serving of a tasty whole grain provides its own nutrients and those B vitamins that help our body metabolize our food and to give us some energy. So we'll walk through kind of what the standard American plate typically looks like and what I typically see like at restaurants and stuff if you're ordering off the menu. It's got a big piece of steak up here. It's probably around 12 ounces, 8 to 12 ounces. I've even seen like salmon fillets on menus at restaurants that are like 12-ounce salmon fillet. And knowing that you only need about 3 to 4 ounces at a meal, you can see how that's double, triple what we actually need for that one setting, like that one eating episode, if you will. And then they have 2 starchy vegetables on here. So we don't have any non-starchy vegetables to help in that area. We at least have a green vegetable on here, some peas, and then white potatoes are also providing their own nutrients. But we can do a little bit better than this to get some more variety in our diet. So this might be what a plate looks like if you're transitioning and becoming more mindful. We don't always have to do like complete 180s and change everything that we're doing at one time, because we really want these changes to stick. So you can see here, the steak is a lot smaller. It's down to 4 to 6 ounces. They've got some green beans up here, which are going to be more of those non-starchy vegetables. And then we have some good whole grain rice happening on the other side of the plate. So this plate is on the right track, but we're still missing some variety of different vegetables and different colors. So we can go one step further, keep going. And so you'll see on this plate here, we've got a lot more variety going on. We have about 3 ounces of protein, maybe 4 ounces of fish, poultry, some red meat from time to time. You've got your broccoli. So we've got some green representation going on. We've got some different squashes, and I think that's some red bell pepper in here. So again, you've got 2 different kinds of vegetable. You really have more than that going on, but you've got more colors happening. And then you've also got a tasty serving of some whole grains taking up some of the plate. So 2/3 of this plate is from plants. And then you've got about 1/3 of it, or even maybe just 1/4 of it, coming from your animal protein. And then here's another option. So I love eating stuff out of bowls nowadays. So this is like a 1-pot meal or a stir fry. So you can see like you would still use around the same amount of animal protein. So there's some like cut up chicken in here, but they've also got mushrooms and broccoli and carrots, some green onions going on. So a lot of different variety. Stir fries are nice because you can add just pretty much anything that you've got going in your fridge that needs to be used up maybe at the end of the week and create a nice stir fry that's got a lot of variety. And then it's on a bed of our whole grains of rice here to round out that bowl. And then as the summer is upon us and we're moving into our like peak season for a lot of good fruits and vegetables that people like to have here in the South, enjoying more fruits and vegetables is a little bit easier during this time of year than, say, maybe winter time. But try crunchy vegetables instead of chips for dipping. So they have those little tiny bell peppers you can get at the store, or even cutting up bell peppers into quarters or a little bit smaller and using those as dips. So you're still getting that sensation of a crunch that we like to get with chips, Carrots, broccoli, celery, cucumbers, those are all crunchy vegetables that we can use, and you can use hummus. You can make your own dips at home, salsas, whatever you like to typically eat with your chips is going to be fine. And maybe you're like, Kristin, you're crazy. I still like chips. Have a few chips, but then also have these fruits and vegetables on the side. So you're not only relying on chips. So if you made a nice batch of guacamole and you wanted a couple tortilla chips with it, perfectly fine. But then maybe switching over or throwing in some bell peppers just to have that as your transport vessel to your mouth. We'll add in some of these extra veggies for you. Having cut up veggies on hand for quick snacks or side dishes can be very helpful. Or while you're cooking, if you're already kind of hungry, you can nibble on those while your dinner's cooking instead of just grabbing for stuff around the kitchen that maybe isn't providing you with some good nutrition. Grilling season is coming up, so having fruit kebabs for dessert, pineapples, peaches, bananas, those grill really nicely and taste really good, so those are fun. Using veggies as pizza toppings. So sometimes get people who are like, oh, I haven't had pizza in years because it's not good for you. If you feel deprived or you like to have pizza, you can always add more veggies on there. I know people who get like frozen veggie pizzas, but they add even more veggies on top just to help give it some extra oomph. Some people will just have 1 or 2 slices of pizza and have a side salad to make sure they're getting their vegetables in that way. Making sure that your freezer is stocked with some good frozen vegetables. So if you're in a hurry, or again, you live by yourself and you don't have a lot of space, or like you're not going to eat some of these things before they go bad, having these frozen veggies are very helpful to just pull out and be like, oh, I've got broccoli and cauliflower medley. Let me just heat that up real quick. I actually cook a lot of my frozen vegetables in an air fryer, and it helps to soak out a lot of that water and leaves them nice and crunchy. So if you like roasted vegetables, you can do it that way. They typically go just fine. Topping baked potatoes with things like beans and salsa, or broccoli with low-fat cheese. Again, it might not be a whole lot of broccoli in there, but you're getting at least some different colors going on. And if you're regularly eating this way and getting fruits and veggies in at most of your meals, it's really going to add up throughout the rest of the day. You can wake up to fruit, making a habit of adding fruit to your morning meal. So maybe you only have some eggs and some toast. Could you add in some fruit, a fruit cup on the side? Could you do an omelet that actually has some veggies in there? So just thinking about ways to kind of sneak some of this stuff into your normal routine. And then stuff an omelet full of veggies is always a great option. And then I also get a lot of questions about, do I need to be eating organic foods or not? So currently there's no definite research that shows that organic foods are better than non-organic foods. The research clearly shows that eating a wide variety of plant foods daily, whether they're organic or non-organic, in addition to being physically active and maintaining that healthy weight, is what really matters when it comes to reducing our cancer risk or reducing our risk for recurrence. So some people like to buy organic foods, some people have the budget to buy organic foods, and some people don't. So the most important thing is that we are getting those fruits and vegetables in where we can, and you buy what you want to buy, and that what tastes good to you and what makes you feel good. Right now, we don't have clear, definitive answers on that kind of research for this stuff. And sometimes you do have more local farmers who can't afford to pay to have the organic certification done, but maybe their growing practices are organic. And sometimes at farmers markets and some of these smaller venues, you can just talk to the farmers and see, how do they grow things. And so that is sometimes a cheaper option for buying more locally sourced products versus going to the store and only buying organic stuff. So sometimes just sparking up a conversation and seeing what happens if you have farmers markets and stuff that are near you and that you like to do on the weekends or on weeknights whenever they host those. And then just to touch on the supplements again, so we do not get the same effect from supplements that we do with food. So we talked a little bit about that earlier, but nutrients work together to be beneficial. So, they were created in a certain way to provide the nutrients that our body needs and to be absorbed, versus isolating single compounds from those fruits and vegetables and things. So some examples of how supplements can cause harm instead of benefit. There have been studies that focused on high dose supplements of beta carotene, and it showed that there is an increased risk for lung cancer and mortality. So that's not the same as if I eat a lot of beta carotene because I have a lot of carrots and tomatoes and those kind of things, like that's shown to reduce lung cancer, but actually just taking the supplement of beta carotene showed an increased risk for lung cancer. And then another example, the green tea extract supplements that are out there have been linked to several cases of liver damage. And so again, I get a lot of comments of, well, they're natural, or, you know, it's natural, so it's safe. And that's not always true. Poison ivy is natural. My skin does not like it regardless of it being natural. So we just want to be cautious there. And we also have to remember that supplements in the US are not overseen by anybody. So the FDA, like, they don't get inspected. They try to like regulate, they're not regulated. There we go. So they try to regulate and make sure that at least the labels are correct, or that they don't have certain claims like cures cancer. Like the FDA makes sure that people aren't putting that kind of thing on there. But as far as testing what your vitamin D supplement has in it, that's not really regulated by any government agency. In the last several years, there have been organizations that have come out and started doing third-party testing on things. And you'll see in some of the stores, like a USP little logo on the front of a supplement that says that it's certified. And so what they're testing for is whatever they say is in the product is actually in the product, because there have been times, and happens much more regularly than we want to believe, that companies will say, oh yeah, it's got such and such in it, and then it doesn't have that in there because nobody's testing it. Or it's got a certain vitamin in there, but it's a version of the vitamin that our body isn't able to convert into something that's usable. So you're taking something and it, like, your body can't use it. So just using caution with supplements, telling your doctor, telling your dietitian what you're taking. We have access to databases that have a lot of this information on there that shows like nutrient and drug interactions. Is it going to interact with your chemo? What's it really used for? Those kind of things, just to make sure that you are being safe with those kind of things. So many supplements cause our blood to be thin, so more like a blood thinner type effect, and can increase your risk of bleeding. So that would be like a garlic supplement, or resveratrol or turmeric can cause some blood thinning. So again, if you're cooking with these things or you're eating foods with these things, your body takes what it needs and gets rid of the rest. But if you're putting in something that's very concentrated, it's just very hard for our body to metabolize and get that stuff out without having like a little bit of overflow and causing some problems. And then there are a lot of supplements that can interfere or interact with different medications, and including some of our chemotherapies. So green tea extracts can interfere with Velcade, which is used to treat multiple myeloma, and quercetin can also interact with Taxol. So these are just two examples, but there can be other examples too. I had a patient many, many years ago that was taking niacin to help with their diabetes management. And one of the side effects of taking niacin is flushing, where you turn red and like, you know, you get like a heat rash kind of going on. And that's a common side effect from some chemotherapies as well. And so they were starting their chemotherapy and had taken niacin right before, and then they ended up flushing and they had to stop their chemo because they thought they were having a reaction, but it turned out to just be the higher use of the niacin along with the chemo. So we don't want to prevent delays or interact with anything. But if your doctor has told you to take a supplement, by all means, like, continue on. I get, you know, a lot of people take calcium and vitamin D. Those are usually okay. Those are helping to protect our bones. It's just more of like the vitamin C, that's 5,000% of your daily value. Like, we just want to be very cautious with some of those things. So yes, always talk about it, bring it up. We'll figure out what's safe, what's not safe, what's effective, what's not effective, and see how we can go from there. So to wrap it all up, striving to eat a plant-focused diet. So this doesn't mean you have to be vegetarian or vegan. It's just a heavy emphasis on getting our plant foods in. A good goal is 5+ servings of fruits and vegetables every day. So take the next couple of days to see how many fruits and vegetables am I actually eating. Because some days I'm like, oh, I got in 2. That wasn't good. Let me try to bump it up the next couple of days. So you do have to be mindful of what you're actually able to get in. And then eating a variety of fruits, vegetables, and other plant foods is very helpful. So again, different colors are representing different anti-cancer components. So we want to have that good variety. Not relying on supplements to protect us against cancer or to protect our health. Making sure that we are eating this well-balanced diet is going to do way more for us than having some supplements on board. And then if you are taking supplements, making sure that you are bringing those up to your doctor and your dietitian to make sure that they're safe for you throughout the journey of cancer treatment and through survivorship and recovery. So these are some helpful websites and resources. And I think that's it. Do we have any questions, Lauren?
Yes, I got one question to me. Someone shared that they were a little bit confused. They want to know, should they be eating less fruit because of the sugars?
Nope, that's an excellent question. So sugar does not feed cancer. That is an oversimplification of what is going on in our bodies. Every cell in our body uses sugar. It's like gas for the car. That is what gives our body energy. You can't cut out sugar to a point where it's going to starve a tumor. That's not physically possible. Our body actually starts to break itself down. It'll start breaking its muscle down to make its own glucose or sugar to make sure that your body's able to keep functioning. And that can actually weaken our immune system. So definitely don't want to be cutting out sugars completely, but we want to be mindful of added sugars. So natural fruit sugars, dairy, those foods that come with sugar already in them, that's naturally occurring. Those are going to be fine if you're sticking to those foods. It's more of the added sugars that get added to different things that we eat or drink that can become a problem. So if you're a woman, the recommendation is to try to be 25 grams of added sugar or less per day. And for men, I think it's like 36 or 38 grams of added sugar or less per day. So a very good example I have of like what that could look like would be some of the flavored yogurts that are out there. If you got just like a plain Greek yogurt, you're not going to see that it has a lot of natural sugar. Like the total sugar line will have, let's just say 10 on there. I don't know that that's a real number for that. But if you added different flavorings to it, like you got the key lime pie Greek yogurt, that might have 15 grams of total sugar, but 5 of those are added sugar. So you've got your 10 grams that's naturally occurring, but the 5 grams of added sugar. So we always want to check that added sugar line and try to keep it on the lower end if we can. So I bought some of those flip cup yogurts one time at Costco. They were on sale and I flipped them over and they had 15 grams of added sugar, the version that I ended up buying. And I was like, oh, that's more than half of my added sugar for the whole day. So I would have to be very careful with other things throughout the day to see. And they add sugar into weird things that you wouldn't expect added sugar to be in, like pretzels and salty things. So just getting comfortable reading that food label, and they now break out added sugars on the food label. So you can very clearly see what's got added sugar to it. And then of course, like your cakes and cookies and those kind of things, like we want to keep a handle on those and not add that in regularly. But if you're going to somebody's birthday party, like it's okay to have a slice of cake. We just don't want to be eating desserts 3 meals a day. And I've had people who eat desserts 3 meals a day. So I just like to point that out. But yeah, you're good with eating your fruits.
All right. We got another question.
Okay.
Good. Generally about mandarin oranges. So eating the fruit, soaking the fruit. Oh, sorry. That's a tongue twister now. Eating the fruit soaking the skin, grinding the pulp. Are there any negative aspects of a daily mandarin orange?
Not that I can think of. As long as you're getting variety from, other places too throughout the day, it's perfectly fine to have your mandarin fruit on a daily basis.
I'm not seeing any other questions directly to me or to everyone in the chat. Anyone have any other questions? And you can put it in the chat or just come off of mute, whatever's easier. I'll give everyone a second to type if you are typing. If you are interested. Oh, yes, sorry.
Oh, I have a question.
Okay.
If I can ask it. If I'm on I need to be on a very low fat diet. Would that be, is it okay then to have like avocado, olive oil, the good fats, nuts and things? And how much?
It depends on why you're on a low fat diet.
Why? I think I have something called bile acid malabsorption, which means low fat and very plant-based diet.
Yeah, so that sometimes will be a little bit of a trial and error to see how you do with it. So I don't know what kind of side effects you have that like trigger the bile malabsorption situation. So if you eat an avocado and it does not agree with you and you're like, ooh, that was not pleasant, then cutting back or just monitoring your portion sizes of it. Because we have some people who like they can't have any fat whatsoever for certain conditions until they heal a certain amount. So that's why I asked like why you're specifically on it. If it was because you were, a lot of breast cancer patients are supposed to be on lower fat diets as well, but we want you to focus on healthier fats like you mentioned. So it'll be a little bit of a trial and error because your bile acids help your body absorb fats. So if you're not having enough bile acids to help attach to those fats, even if they're healthy fats, your body might not be absorbing them, which can cause that GI distress. And so even if it's from an avocado, it might be too much for your system to really absorb what you're trying to eat. So it might just be smaller amounts of it spread out through the day to see how your body tolerates it and does okay with it.
Are there other things that that you shouldn't have in a case like that? Like are beans a problem because of like just basic GI things? That. Or is there anything else other than, because they say have beets, asparagus, and okra, but some of those things can sort of cause a little bit of GI distress.
Yeah, and again, it kind of like this is where meeting with a dietitian one-on-one who can really get into specifics about like your side effects and what's happening can be helpful. But yes, I mean, all of those foods have fiber in them, and a lot of them have insoluble fiber that our body doesn't like break down. And we want those foods typically because they help our bowels stay regular. But if you're already having like diarrhea or runny stools or just a sense of urgency to go to the bathroom like immediately after eating, those things could be something else, but they could be made worse by having some of those insoluble fibers. So again, that's kind of where we've got to work around and find some of those loopholes to get the nutrients in. But yeah, I mean, beans can be very gassy and can upset a lot of people's stomachs, but it kind of depends on how you cook them or how often you've eaten them in your life. And does your body know those foods and it tolerates it versus somebody who just woke up one day and was like, let's eat a cup of beans and see what happens. Like that person's going to have way more distress probably than somebody who's eaten beans their whole life. So I'm happy to try to get you connected to your specific dietitian to see if you can work through some of that stuff.
Soybean, good or bad for breast cancer?
It's good. So yeah, there's a lot of misconception from some stuff that like came out in the 80s, I think. But no, soy has actually been proven across the globe and locally here in the US to be protective against cancer and reducing cancer risk, specifically with breast cancer and even those who have ER positive or HR positive cancers. The soy, the estrogen, well, it's like phytoestrogen that's in soy does not influence human estrogen. So there aren't concerns over that anymore. There's not enough research to say like you need to eat soy every day to like have a protective effect. But if you like soybeans or eating edamame when you go out and have sushi, those kind of things are actually more protective than they are. We definitely know that they're not harmful, and we believe that they have a lot of benefit for reducing cancer risk and recurrence.
And Kristin, you have a presentation on that, don't you?
I think so. I think I did one in October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I can't remember, it might just be breast cancer and nutrition, that went over all of the current recommendations, because there's stuff on there like fasting and dairy and soy, and really digging into some of those things that are more popular among breast cancer patients.
And one final quick question, is rice a whole grain?
So white rice is not a whole grain, but brown rice or wild rice, those are considered to be whole grains. That's not to say you can't have white rice. Like a lot of cultures prefer white rice and a lot of recipes call for white rice. And I think it's like a 1 gram fiber difference. So as long as you're eating other vegetables and stuff around those meals, you're going to get the fiber from somewhere else. So if you like brown rice, that is a whole grain. If you hate brown rice, but you like white rice from time to time, that's fine too.
Thank you for joining Cancer Support Community Atlanta for this program. If you're interested in other live or recorded programs, please visit the online program tab of our website, cscatlanta.org, or follow us on Facebook. We'll be sharing additional information on upcoming programs.